Hello there, Dan Passarelli here. How are you feeling today? I hope you're feeling great because I'm feeling pretty great. I want to make sure that you can hear me. If you can hear me, please hit that Q&A box and let me know, please, will ya? I would surely appreciate it. That Q&A box and let me know. All right, Justin. All right, Alex and Julia and Mike. Got my I'm on the road, in case you couldn't tell. David, Biren, Martine, Tomas. All right, so I got my fancy travel mic here, which is probably not designed as a travel mic. The darn thing's pretty big. Eduardo, sound quality pretty good? I bet it's pretty good, right? I bet it's as good as my regular one. Is it good? What do you say? It's a Blue Yeti. Yeah, it's good. All right. If not, well, that's what you're getting anyway, but let me know. I'd appreciate the feedback. All right, folks. Well, today we're going to be talking about analyzing vertical spreads step by step. Before we get started, I need to point out options are not for everyone. Please read characteristics and risks of standardized options before trading. Get a copy of that by emailing investorservices@theocc.com. Don't trade with money you're not prepared to lose. And everything we are doing here today is providing generalized information, not necessarily specific to your situation. And I see a lot of familiar family members here, market taker family members here, but I see some new folks too. I love seeing the new folks. I love sharing my stuff with new folks. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dan Passarelli, and I am an author of two of the most popular trading books, soon to be hopefully three of the most popular trading books. I think this next one's going to be my best one so far. But that is not due out until April 28th. In addition to writing books, I also write articles. I do online presentations like this for great options-friendly firms like Firstrade, as well as the market taker family of student traders, a lot of the exchanges. I'm a trader. I trade basically every day, even if that is just checking the market and making sure that I don't have to do any adjustments, which I love to not have to do adjustments. Got to be good at them for the times when you do need to do them, but try to do them as infrequently as possible. And I'm the founder and president of Market Taker Mentoring, which is the global leader in option trader education. We have students in over 50 countries, believe it or not. That is crazy, crazy. And we have put thousands and thousands and thousands of traders through our program. I'm a trading industry collaborator. I work with all the great options-friendly brokers like Firstrade, as well as most of the exchanges, options exchanges, and get to be on TV a lot, which is kind of fun. I get around this industry, friends. I get around it. And I'm a family man. Those of you who are in the market taker family of student traders, you know my wife, Kathleen. She runs operations here at Market Taker Mentoring. And she takes good care of our students, as many of you know. On top of that, I have my two adult children. and my two cute little dogs. They're little tiny little buggers. One's 15 years old and one is 3 years old. And I do other things for fun besides trade and be a family man. I am a runner, foodie, love my good food, traveler, travel all the time. Here I am in Texas today, as a matter of fact. Um, but I've been all over the world. And also, I'm a music person, a little passion of mine. But enough about me. Let's talk about the important person here. Let's talk about you. Today, I'm going to share everything I need to help you step by step how to trade vertical spreads. But to be good at anything, the more you learn, the more you earn. And that is probably the most true when it comes to trading, because the only money you have to invest in trading is capital to put in your account, decent computer, and education. And education is the most important thing to spend your time and money on. I'm not kidding, man. The more you learn, the more you earn. If you just want to learn a couple of things, great. It can be a hobby for you. It'd probably be an expensive hobby. You want to learn a lot of things and be great at it, I believe it could be very, very fruitful. So go to markettaker.com, 2 T's in a row, and just go to the top right here, join free, and you get lots of other free education. And you get on our mailing list to attend other online education events. So let's talk about my vertical spread trading plan. Quick review of verticals. I have done some classes on verticals through Firstrade. This one is different. You have not seen this one before. We're going to cover the basics right here, but then we're going to cover lots of other stuff that is super important that you probably have not learned from me yet. And you haven't learned from me yet, chances are you probably haven't learned from anybody yet, because I tend to share more than anybody else in this entire industry. There are two types of vertical spreads. The first is a credit spread. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, the first is a credit spread, and the second is a debit spread. A credit spread, so first of all, a vertical spread is when you sell one, I'll start with calls. They could be calls or puts. You sell one call and buy a different call with a different strike. Both of the calls have the same expiration dates. It's just vertical on the option chain. You know, how some option chains lay them out anyway. With a credit spread, we're selling the one that is closer to the money, and so therefore has the highest premium. And so when we trade this, it's basically a selling transaction, and so therefore we take in a credit when we make the trade. A debit spread is when and we'll just speak in context of calls, it could be puts also, but is when I buy one call and then sell another call. But this time I'm buying the call closer to the money or closer to, that has a bigger value. So more towards being in the money. It could be in the money, doesn't have to be. And then selling, almost always selling an out of the money, higher strike call. With puts, it's just the opposite. Buy a put, sell a lower strike put. Okay. So when it comes to credit spreads, the traditional use of them is what I like to call a line in the sand trade. If it's a put credit spread or a call credit spread, that just depends on the direction. A call credit spread is when I have a not bullish stance. So I don't need the stock to go down. Stock can go down. It can stay where it is. It could even go up a little bit, and I make money. Therefore, it's a high probability trade when set up as an out of the money spread, which is almost always how we set up credit spreads, either at or out of the money. A put credit spread is what I would call a not bearish stance. Could go up, great. Could stay where it is, great. Could go down a little bit, just as long as it doesn't go down too much, the trade is a winner. So it's not very directional. If we sell closer to the money, it gets a little bit more directional, but it's really that line in the sand trade. And we're slightly bearish on volatility. And that is one of the things that most people don't tell you. That is one of the things that when you get a free class, you tend to get what you pay for. I try to give you a lot more because you're with Firstrade. But most people just say, oh, yeah, as long as it doesn't go through the strike, you're fine. Okay, go trade. But we care about volatility. We always need to do a volatility analysis. And there's a sweet spot time horizon between about 1 week and 1 month. Really, we can go shorter than a week. Sometimes, a lot of times I will. Sometimes I'll do just a 3-day one or something. And occasionally I'll go a little longer than a month. But most of my credit spreads are between 1 week and a month. And we want to get a credit that is at least 10% of the spread width. So we take the distance between the two strikes. Maybe they're $5 apart. Sell the 60 calls, buy the 65 calls, $5 apart. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. So 10% of 5 is 50 cents. So if it's $5 spread, I'd want to take in at least 50 cents. Okay. This is a credit call spread or call credit spread. You can say those in either order. It's both correct. So let's say I sell the 60 strike calls, buy the 65 strike calls, and I collect 60 cents. Well, 60 cents is the most I can make. So when I sell options or sell a spread like this, the most I can make is what I collect. The most I can lose is the difference between the two strike prices. So 65 minus 60 is 5, minus the credit received, which is 60 cents. So 5 minus 60 is $4.40 is the most I can lose. Now, hold on a second. Dan, that sounds like a terrible trade. Why would you do that? Why would you risk $4.40 to only make 60 cents? Dan, you're crazy. What are you even talking about? Well, it might seem like that disparate risk reward is a bad idea. But you know what? It depends on one factor. You know what that is? Probability of success, right? Like if we were to play a game of, I would throw one die, six-sided die. We're not playing Dungeons and Dragons over here. Throw one six-sided die. And if one or two comes up, I give you $1. And if 3, 4, 5, or 6 comes up, you give me $1. You want to play that game? No, because you only win 2 out of 6 times. You lose 4 out of 6 times. What if it was the opposite? 1 or 2 comes up, you pay me $1. 3, 4, 5, or 6 comes up, I pay you $1. Oh, now you win 4 out of 6 times, 2/3 of the time. How about this? What if if 1 comes up, you lose $2. If 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 comes up, you win $1. Well, you can lose $2 and you only make $1. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? You want to play that game? Yes, you do. Because you win 5 out of 6 times and you lose 1 time. So if you threw the die 6 times, well, first of all, if you threw the die 600,000 times, you would probably get about the same number of 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s and 6s. It would be spread out pretty evenly. It moves more towards the same probability for each the more times you throw it. But let's just divide that and say I throw it 6 times, and each time a different number comes up. First time 1 comes up, second time 2 comes up, third time 3 comes up, etc. Well, one of those times you would lose $2. 5 of those times you would make $1. So you lose 2, you make 5. That's a pretty good game. But wait, I can still lose more than I can win. So what? In the long run, it's a money-making venture. Same thing with put credit spreads or credit put spreads. Here, let's say I sell the 100 strike calls and I buy the 98 strike calls. No, puts, sorry. Sell the 100 strike puts, buy the 98 strike puts. And I collect 65 cents. Okay. Most I can make is 65 cents. What is the most I can lose? Let's see who is paying attention here. What is the most that I could lose? Anybody? Tell me now. What is the most that I can lose? Hit that Q&A box. Bingo. David, Johnny on the spot over here, David. $1.35. That's right. Because it's 100 minus 98 is $2 strike width minus 65 cents option premium collected. It's $1.35. So I can make 65 cents. I can lose $1.35. So that's about risking 2 to make 1, basically, right? 65 times 2 is 130. So that being said, what? We basically want to have better than a 2 out of 3 chance of winning on this trade. That needs to be our perception. So in doing this, both of these options would be out of the money in both cases. Call credit spread or put credit spread. Both options would be out of the money. That means in this case, the stock might be 103. Sell 100 puts, buy the 98 puts. So if the stock's at 103, I have a head start in making money. If the stock goes up and I hold this till expiration, both of the options expire, I keep my 65 cents. Stock stays where it is at 103, both of the options expire, keep my 65 cents. If stock goes down all the way to $100.01, both of the options expire, I keep my 65 cents. Only if it goes below 100 do I start losing. What do you think the break even is? Well, let's say the stock is below 100 at expiration, but above 98. What would happen to each of the puts? Well, the 98 puts would expire because they're still out of the money. The 100 puts would get assigned, and I would buy the stock at 100. But I still have that 65 cents I collected when I sold the put. So my break even would be 100 minus 65 cents is $99.35. As long as the stock is above the break even, I make money. And right? We're below the break even, I lose money, but if I get assigned on my 100 strike puts and have to buy the stock at 100, if we're below 98, I can exercise my 98 strike puts and lock in only a $2 loss on negative scalping the stock. So $2 minus the 65 cents collected is $1.35. Everybody understand this? Anybody need me to go over anything extra on this? Hit that Q&A box and let me know. Inquiring minds want to know, friends. Inquiring minds want to know. We all good? All right. Thanks, Julia. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Larry. What's up, Larry? Larry's in the Marketic family. Among other families. Now, debit spreads are a little bit different. Debit spreads, staying warm, good. I am too, because I flew from Chicago to Texas, like southern Texas too. I'm very close to the border of Mexico. It's warm here. I know. Mama Passarelli didn't raise no stupid kids. You know what I'm talking about? The weather where I am today, well, right now it's 61 outside. It's going to be a high of 66. Tomorrow is going to be a high of 77 where I am. See, this is what you call a business trip, which it is. I'm actually very, very busy on this trip. I've got a lot going on. Got a special mastermind class happening here, which we don't do too often. We only do those for our most elite clients, I guess you would say, student traders. Suntan lotion. Well, I like I said, it actually literally is business trip because it's a mastermind. So working very diligently with a trading group that's just starting up to become a professional trading group. It's very exciting. So I have not had any need for suntan lotion just yet, but Thursday I'm kind of hoping to. Seminar around the pool. I like the way you think, Larry. I think you should be promoted to planner, travel planner, mastermind planner. Excellent. I forget where you live again, Larry. Where are you again? California? Must not be since. Yeah, well, tell me later. Okay. So anyway, debit spreads are synthetically the same as credit spreads. Oh, Southwest Florida. Smart man. Smart man. I like that. I don't know why the hell I live in Chicago. I don't know why. I try to talk Kathleen into moving. She wants to stay in Chicago. I mean, it wasn't for the cold, I'd be all for it. But gosh, it gets cold. It gets so cold in the winter. Okay, so debit spreads, while they're synthetically related to, oh, you moved there from Cincinnati. That was a smart move, man. Debit spreads are typically traded as directional spreads. And the reason why there's a difference is because of the strike selection. With debit spreads, we're not always buying two out of the money. Well, we're not always trading two out of the money options. We might buy an out of the money option. We might buy an at the money option. We might even buy an in the money option to get a bigger delta. But we're almost always selling an out of the money option. With a debit spread, we want the stock to move to our short strike. So sometimes that's through our long strike to our short strike. Traditional use for these is to offset a capital outlay. Maybe if we're trading a debit call spread, it's basically the way we make or lose money on a debit call spread is with the long call. That's what we make or lose our money on. The short call does two things for us. It hedges my time decay. It hedges my volatility risk. Well, and it offsets my capital outlay. If I buy a call for $3, I spend $300 per contract. But if I buy a call for $3 and then sell a call for $1, now I'm only spending $2 for a directional play. $200. I cut my risk by a third. This can potentially also improve my percentage gains. Why? Because if the stock just goes up to the strike price and not through it, I make the same amount of money on the long call that I would make if I didn't sell the other call. But I also make money on the call I sold. So when I have a small move just up to but not through the strike price, I make more. When I have a big move and it goes through the strike price, I still make money, but I make percentage-wise less. So debit spreads are good for small directional plays. When do I use it? When I'm bullish or bearish to a point. Sometimes when I'm bullish on volatility, sometimes when I'm hedging volatility, we'll talk more about that in a second. And it's the same thing. I typically want a 1 week to 1 month time horizon. With debit spreads or credit spreads, I want to plan the expiration date to my time horizon. Now you might say, well, Dan, how do I know my time horizon? I mean, I don't know what the stock's going to do. Of course you don't. I wish I could see the future, but I can't see the future. So when I'm looking at a chart, I always like to explain this starting out with the extremes. If I'm looking at a chart and I think the stock's going to go up $10, do I think it's going to go up $10 by the end of the day or $10 by the end of the year? Well, Dan, no, neither of those. 1 day is not enough, and a year is way too long. Okay, so you actually do think about time horizon. You just don't realize you think about time horizon. Right? So we want to just think about it. With the debit spread, call it a debit spread because we're buying the more expensive call in this case, put in the case of the put debit spread. Oops. Oops. Yeah. So let's say we buy the 85 strike calls and sell the 87 strike calls, $2 spread, and we pay we pay 90 cents for it. Maybe the stock is right around 85, buying an at the money call. Okay. Buying an at the money call. Selling an out money call. If we're paying, what did I say, 90 cents? If we're paying 90 cents, maybe I'm paying $3 on the 85 call, or maybe we're paying, yeah, $3 on, well, $2.50 on the 85 call and selling the 87 call at $1.60. $2.50 minus $1.60 is 90 cents. So if I just bought the call at $2.50, I'd be risking $2.50. But if I buy the call at $2.50 and I sell that other call at $1.60, I'm only paying 90 cents. I reduce my risk by, in this case, more than half. So the most I can lose is 90 cents. What is the most I can make? I limit my profit potential on these kind of trades. What is the most I can make? Who can tell me that? Somebody can tell me that. I know you can. I know it. Nobody can tell me how much is the most I can make? Okay, I'll tell you then. Well, figure if I own the 85 calls, if the stock is above 85, I could exercise my 85 calls and buy the stock at 85, lower than where the market's trading if it's above 85, right? But I paid 90 cents for the spread. So 85 plus 90 is $85.90. That is my break even. If we're above 85.90, I win. If we're below, I lose. But if we're above 87, then 87 calls don't expire, they get assigned. And the stock that I bought at, well, effectively 85.90, I sell at 87. So the most I can make is $1.10. So I risk 90 to make $1.10. And that's pretty common with debit spreads. A lot of times I risk less than I can make. Yeah. Sorry. Well, those of you who attended my presentations the last 2 weeks, you know that I've been sick for like 2 weeks. Do you believe it? I think it's this flu that's going around, man. I don't know, but it kicked my butt. I like took naps during the day a couple of times, which I never do. I'm a busy guy. I don't take naps during the day. I'd like to take naps during the day, but I just don't have time to, usually. But I couldn't even help it. This thing kicked my butt. I was down for the count. Still kind of getting over it. Okay, anyway, so that's call debit spread. Put debit spread. Let's say the stock is at 202. I buy the 200 strike puts for $6. Sell the 195 strike puts for $2. Paying $4, right? Paid $6 for these. Collected $2 for these. That's $4. So if the stock is below the strike price at expiration, what strikes did I say I was using here? 200 and 195, right? If the stock is below 200 expiration, I get assigned on my 200 strike puts, buy the stock at 200, but no, short the stock at 200 because I'm long these, but I paid $4 for the spread. So I'm really not shorting the stock at 200. Effectively, I'm shorting it at 200 minus the $4 I paid for the spread. Uh, you get the idea. I'm kind of using weird numbers here now that I think about it, but limited risk, limited profit potential. Okay. How and when do I trade these? Well, here's what we're going to use. We're going to use what I like to call the MTM trading plan checklist. The trading plan checklist is when I use technical analysis, volatility analysis, and fundamental analysis. That's the first three steps here. Technical setup, identify volatility events, and volatility analysis. In order to create a holistic forecast, which enables me to select the optimal strategy specific to the strikes and the expiration. I analyze my Greeks and risk, come up with my exit and adjustment plan. I execute the strategy, or I figure out my execution strategy, execute the trade, adjust and exit, and do a post-mortem so I learn from my successes and mistakes. Trading vertical spreads is very versatile. I can trade kind of almost anything with the vertical spread. I can have conventional objectives like trading a directional trade or creative objectives. Hey, if the stock doesn't fall too much, I make money. I can leg into it. I can leg out of it. I can roll it. I can roll it by legging or as one trade. So let's look and zoom the lens to see a typical call credit spread. We've got NVIDIA. Is this the best thing in the world here? Is this the best example in the world? I don't know. It's a decent enough example. So there is resistance here at $186 a share. It's pretty strong resistance too. Here it was actually support, and then it fell below it and support became resistance. That's one of the things we're looking for. And then we'll also look at the news to see, hey, are there any volatility events planned? Meaning, is earnings coming out? We don't want to put on a debit spread or credit spread going into earnings usually. But we want to know what's going on in the stock. And then we're going to look at the option chain. Now, where did I say the resistance was? 186. There's actually more at about 190. Okay, so what if I could sell the 192.5 calls and buy the 195 calls, in this case for about 51 cents? Well, why would I do that? Why would I sell the 192.5 calls if there's resistance at 186 and 190? Because if resistance holds at 186, or if it doesn't hold at 186, if it holds at 190, especially because there are two resistance levels. You've got a reasonably good shot of them holding. The stock probably won't get up to 192.5 by expiration. And I'm not recommending this trade or anything like that. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Just basically giving you an example of things that you would want to incorporate into your analysis. So yeah, if you sell these and over the next 11 days, NVIDIA does not go over 192.5, you're going to make money. The options will expire in 11 days if the stock's not above 192.5. And the 51 cents I collected is all profit. What if the stock goes above 192.5? Well, we've got our same profit and loss diagram here, right? The stock's at above 190, if it's below 192.5 at expiration, both options expire, keep the 51 cents. If we're above 192.5, this short call will get assigned and I will have short stock. So I would sell stock literally at 192.5, but I also have 51 cents a share in my pocket. So my break even is 193.01, even higher than the short strike price. If the stock gets up over the long strike price, the 195 strike, then I could exercise my 195 call to stop the bleeding. And that stock, which I shorted at effectively $193.01, I could buy back at 95 cents, cutting my lot or at $195. So I would cut my losses to $1.99. Most I can lose is $1.99. Most I can make is 51. Add those two together. They should always add up to the difference between the two strike prices. Let's look at the Greeks. How do I even calculate the Greeks for a debit spread like this? Well, I'm selling, or credit spread like this, rather, sorry. So I'm selling the 192.5 calls, so I'm getting short 0.253641 deltas per spread, which is basically 25.36. And then I'm buying the 195 calls, so I'm getting long about 18 deltas. So 25 minus 18 is 7 deltas on this spread. Because this is a put credit spread. Is it put credit spread? No, this is a call credit spread. Because this is a call credit spread, the delta is going to be negative because I'm selling the 192.5 calls, getting short 25 deltas, long 18 deltas. That makes short 7 deltas net. Theta, which I really care about because that's really how I'm making my money on this, because I'm selling the 192.5 calls, I'm going to make 15.5 cents a day. Let's call it 15 cents a day. Because I'm buying 195 calls, I'm going to lose 12 cents a day. So I make 15 cents a day, I lose 12 cents a day, I make a net of 3 cents a day. Vega, what if implied volatility moves? I'm selling the 192.5 calls, getting short about 10 Vegas, buying the 195 calls, getting long about 8 Vegas. So I'm getting short about 2 Vegas. What does that mean? That means if implied volatility goes down, I make money. Implied vol, specifically, I make 2 cents per share, $2 per contract. Implied volatility goes up 1 point, I lose 2 cents. If it goes up 2 points, I lose 4 cents. Easy, right? So I want to execute the spread. Now, I always prefer to enter this as a spread and therefore middle the market. Okay. I want to middle the market. That's going to get me a better fill price. Further, there's sometimes when instead of entering as a spread, I'll do it entering it on legs, which means I'm going to buy the long option first, in this case, long call, and then immediately sell the short option. What if I buy the long call and then the stock goes down? Well, then I'm kind of screwed. So that's why I prefer to do it as a spread. But I mean, sometimes I'll buy a call and I don't like the spread because the option I have to sell is too cheap. And if the stock goes up, then later I'll sell the call. That's typically how and when I leg. Let's look at the strike selection. With the credit spread, the short strike represents the profit or a loss. That's how I make or lose my money. So it's a balance of premium brought in versus wiggle room, because with a credit spread, once both options are out of the money, once the short option is in the money, that's where I start running into trouble. So I kind of want to sell as far away from the current stock. I want to sell a strike price as far away from the current strike price as possible to make the chance of winning as likely as possible. But I also want to sell as close as the money as I can so I can get the biggest premium. There is my balance. I can look at the delta of the short option as the likelihood of expiring in the money. So basically 100 minus my delta gives me my rough guess at my probability of winning. So the short strike is where I'm going to make or lose my money. The long strike is kind of like my deductible. It's my insurance policy. If I stay close to the strike price, my deductible is going to be highest. I'm going to pay the most for it. If I go further away from the strike price, the short strike price, with my long strike price, then I open myself up to potentially bigger losses, but also bigger gains. Okay, let's talk put credit spread here. Here we've got support at 232.50. It used to be resistance. This is just a hypothetical example. And it's been trending. It was up on pretty strong volume. And this big green candle day. So what I could do is, wait a minute, where was that? Here with the stock at 237, I'm going to sell the 232.5 puts and buy the 230 puts. So if support holds at 237.5 and the stock doesn't fall below 237.5, both of these options will expire. And how much should I collect here? So these at 202 for the 230 puts, I paid $1.64. That would be 38 cents I collected. Yeah, I collected 38 cents. That's the most I can make. Most I could lose is 250 minus 38 is $2.12. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. All right. So this is really pretty straightforward, isn't it? You got credit spreads down pretty well. Let's talk about debit spreads. Debit spreads are a little bit of a different philosophy. Let's take Johnson and Johnson. It's been trending somewhat higher. Trending somewhat higher. Been seeing higher highs, higher lows, although we've been a little bit neutral lately. Although the 50-day moving average is acting as support. Stock kind of bounces off that. So let's say we want to play this bullish, but not mega bullish, right? Just somewhat bullish. Well, one thing we can do is set up and buy. Wait, what price was that stock at? Stock is at 207.56. So in this case, I'm going to consider buying the at the monies. Buying the 207.5 calls at 425 and selling the 212.5 calls at $1.92. First of all, I do this for what? Why do I buy the 207.5 calls, sell the 212.5 calls? Because I think that this stock is going to go higher and the 207.5 calls are going to gain in value. I think I'm going to be able to make money on those, but I don't think the stock is going to go over 212.5. And so I think I'll also make money on the 212.5 calls. That's really the best way to look at it. So I'm risking $2.33 to make $6.67. When you're buying an at the money call, selling an out of the money call, you tend to get a risk reward that's kind of like this. I can make a little bit more than I can lose, which is pretty great. We look at the Greeks, we got this. Getting long 52 deltas with the 207.5 calls. We're getting short 34 deltas. Well, we'll just say 33 deltas by selling the 212.5 calls. So getting long 52, short 34, getting long about 18 deltas. Theta, we're collecting, no, we're paying $18.38 per contract. We're collecting $18. John, who put this presentation together for me, just rounded this to 1 cent, probably just to make it more clear because he's only going out 2 decimal places and wanted you to see that it is a negative theta trade. Negative Vega is just a penny too. 14 minus 13 is 1 cent. We're buying the 207.5 calls. So basically, if it goes up, I make money. If time passes, I lose money until we get closer to the 212.5 strike. Then, because that's a short option, there's the dominant Greeks, and I start making money again. And Vega, if implied volatility moves, I make or lose just a little bit of money. This is really more about me hedging off theta and Vega than anything. And, just notice I still have a somewhat respectable delta. It's not a huge delta, but it's 18. But my theta and Vega are just nothing. They're nothing. So we would enter this as a spread typically, try and middle the market. If we enter it on legs, it's because we buy the long option first and then later sell the short option. We need to like the first leg being long the options on its own. Makes sense? Because I could buy that call, and if the stock doesn't go up, I may never be able to sell that short call. And I say I may never be able to say it, so as to sell it. You might be like, "What? I mean, there's going to be a bid. You can sell it. I can, but I'd be selling it at a worse price by legging it if the first call goes against me, because all the calls are going to be worse then." Make sense? We do a good job covering everything today. So vertical spreads, debit or credit spreads, they're really kind of simple, to tell you the truth. Things like time spreads are a lot more complicated, but we covered that quite extensively last week. Anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope to see you back next week, friends. Talk to you soon. Bye.